Hey there, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about how to get those deals closed by the end of the month. So one of the biggest problems that I come across is people getting to the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year and still having deals that haven't closed. And that's a nightmare because that means you're going to miss your targets and maybe your commission. So what can you do about it? Well, I've got a few top tips, so stick around to make sure you catch them all. So the first thing is you need to really check in with your prospects and find out where they are. If you're coming up to the end of the month, you need to check that something that you think is going to close is going to actually close. Otherwise, you're going to be scrabbling around on the last day of the month and you're going to be feeling super stressed. So don't leave it till the last day. What it does mean as well is that in advance we can get in touch with our prospects and just check in with where they are. Now, if you always agree your next action, you should already have a call booked in to talk to your prospect and you should already be expecting them to be returning that document at that moment in time. And this is where things can sometimes slow down. Suddenly, that red hot deal doesn't seem so important to the person you're talking to. Suddenly they're really busy. Suddenly they're just going to get to that and you start to feel very nervous about the timeline of getting that document back and in your hand. So what can you do about it? Well, a great place to start is actually requalifying and making sure that your prospect is still bought in to the idea of your product or service. It might seem strange, but actually by just going back through why they originally thought this was a great idea and what's important to them, it's a brilliant way to just remind them of why they should be going ahead. And then you can start to think about why they should do it today. So how do you do that? Well, I really simply say, look, Mr. Prospect, I know that you were really interested in achieving X, Y, Z by A, B, C. Is that still the case? And as long as they're still bought in, they're going to say yes. In that case, it's really easy for me to then say, great. So all we need to do is get this piece of work agreed. What's stopping you at this point with that? What's really nice about that is that then you'll find out what's actually going on. Is it just that they've got really busy? Have they run out of time? Is their boss on holiday? What's going on under the skin? And depending on the response, you can then support them. And one of the things that I'm really keen on doing is making it as easy as possible for people to actually buy. And that means that if they say, well, I still need to talk to Bob and I need to get a sign off of Fred and I need to do this and I need to do that. Brilliant. Tell you what, best thing we can do is to really quickly get that done. Why don't we all hop on a call for 15 minutes and that way I'm around to answer any questions? The really good thing about that is you're keeping control and actually you're getting agreement to move the whole deal forward, which is really helpful. That can be really useful, especially if people say they're really busy. Okay, so what can I do to get this moved forward for you? Sometimes it can be about complexity as well. It might be that the deal you've put in front of them requires a lot of thought. Now, this might be if there's multiple components to it or lots of things that they need to check. So they need to verify exactly the feature set they need or exactly the number of users, and they need to get check-in of 3 or 4 different department managers. The more complex it is, the harder it is for them just to go, yeah, let's do it. So remember that when putting these deals together. They might let you know that they absolutely want to do it. They just need to check X, Y, and Z. If that's the case, how can you help? Can you get on the phone and check with their colleagues? Can you go and pull user numbers from somewhere else? How can you help to make that deal as simple as possible for them to say yes to? And once you understand what's going on, what we then need to think about is how we create some urgency. Now, the key thing with urgency is you need to maintain your integrity. And I think this is really important because if you push too hard and if you lie, then guess what? You'll have a one-time customer and they will never buy from you again. And they might not even buy from you this time. So whatever you put in place to ensure some momentum and some urgency, you need to be clear that you're going to stand behind it. So here's a few ideas as to how you can do this. The first is really common. By actually sharing that there's a price increase coming at the end of the month. This isn't uncommon. And in fact, many people's quotes have got a 30-day life on them or are only valid till the end of the month. The key thing is though, if you're saying the prices go up at the end of the month, you need to make sure they do. One of the things that I really like to do is think about the offer. Quite often when we're putting something together, people will talk about discounts, but as you might know, I'm not a big fan of discounting. Instead, I prefer to work with offers and packages because it gives you far more flexibility and it maintains the value of your product or service. So what you can do is you can give a sweetener in the terms of an add-in or a bolt-on if they're actually going to get that deal across the line this month. Equally, depending on how you work as a business, you may have monthly offers, in which case the deal that you're offering might not be available tomorrow. So actually, it's only fair if you let your prospects know that what you're offering them is probably going to change if they don't go ahead with it this month. The third way you can look at this is around limited places. It might be you've got limited places for your program or limited seats at your training. Make sure people are aware of this, and equally, if any early bird offers are going to disappear at the end of that period. The key with all of this though is if you are going to create urgency by actually changing prices, changing offers, or talking about limited places, then you need to make sure that's actually the truth. Because otherwise you're going to really damage your integrity, and nobody likes people who sell like that. And if all else fails, then you can always try my last top tip. And that's to say to your prospect, so Mr. Prospect, what do you see as the next steps? And when they tell you that, say, great. And what timeline do you see that working to? The great thing about that is at least then you get them to share what they feel can or should happen next, and also what time you should be working to. And sometimes, depending on what they share, you might have to wait till next month. Especially with bigger deals, sometimes you need more than one person to sign them off. Sometimes you need more than one location. And especially in bigger organizations, you sometimes need a bigger rubber stamp than you can get before close of business today. So just remember, in that situation, sometimes you're better off maintaining the relationship and banking it if it's just taking that bit longer than you expected. This also tells us that a great question to ask at the beginning of our sales process would have been, and what do you see the timeline for this process being? That's really helpful for you to refer back to at this point in time, and it's also really important for when you're building your pipeline. I'd love to hear how you get on in any other tips that you have about closing that business before the end of the month. So until next time, just remember to be salestastic.